been given access to receive messages of clarity, guidance, and love. As channeler, psychotherapist, and author, Noemi Grace has an intimate dialogue with the divine on your behalf. Lisa Berry, creator of the show Light on Living, will be co-hosting as live callers ask their burning question on self-love, self-healing, deepening relationships, areas of struggle, and next steps. By simply listening in, you're receiving wisdom that will lead to sacred stability from every channeled message that Noemi delivers. Join us now as we give you access to angels and grace.
And good day, everyone, and hello, Noemi.
Hello, Lisa.
We have access to all times of the day.
There we go, all time zones. Yes, it is morning somewhere, not that far away.
Yes. Oh, you know what? I was just thinking as we were hearing that lovely intro that, you know, the topic for today being, can you forgive the unforgivable? And my relationship has been changing with forgiveness since we've been going through the series, and which we're gonna share and talk about. But I'm hoping that others have too. Has your relationship with forgiveness changed?
I feel like my awareness of forgiveness has changed. That I'm aware where I have experienced it, like, oh, yes, I had a little bad feeling about that last week. Now, no problem. And so I'm aware of the sort of the little forgivenesses that accumulate or don't accumulate over time. So the little resentments, that's what I'm aware of. The things that would turn into little resentments, they're becoming little forgivenesses. Just like, oh, yeah, move on.
Oh, that's fun. I like thinking that because I think you kind of summed up what I've been going through. I always have consciously, very with awareness, said, no, you know what? I don't actually even need forgiveness because I truly do offer forgiveness quickly because I think, well, they didn't even know what they were doing. So there was never blame and there was never regret. But what I've learned along our pathway with forgiveness was I now have an interesting relationship. And so there was a little part in the long show description that I wrote. And I thought that really for me is where my relationship with forgiveness has come more into play. And I'll just read this tiny little part here. And this is where I realized that forgiveness does play a role in my life. And it was for holding on to self-limiting beliefs. It was that, please forgive me for this. Please forgive me for not being there. Please forgive me for giving too much of myself away. Forgive me for not respecting my boundaries, not honoring my core values, expecting too much and taking away my light. And my asking forgiveness for the pain that I've caused myself and others, for lack of courage in my time of need. And Noemi, I was able to go layers and layers deep, and it was because of my relationship with Ho'oponopono. But, you know, because at first you think, oh, forgiveness is only if somebody did you wrong, and now you got to forgive them so you can continue and have a relationship. But yeah, so much deeper for me now. Very much deeper.
Oh, that's wonderful. Share a little bit about that. Your Ho'oponopono.
Yeah. Oh, my
experience.
Ho'oponopono. I love that one. Yes. I always liked it. I was like, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And I've even been through all the things like, what does that mean? Like, and I have this thing about, I'm sorry is like a knock on the door, and please forgive me is creating, opening up that little door, a little crack, like who's out there? Who's saying sorry? Okay, let me look at you. and then that creating that space so that forgiveness and movement can go on. And when I used to do Ho'oponopono, it was going through the motions. And I think we all need to start there at first. Sometimes we don't know. It's just the willingness. And then I remember this, the one night, it was my big old story. I was like, I got it. I know this is going to do something. I could feel it. And I kept saying it over and over. And it was layers for me. It was a process for me of going, okay, what am I sorry for? Where does it hurt? Oh, that's what it was. My experience with Ho'oponopono is it allowed me to find out where I was having discomfort and pain and blame and all those things, whereas I really didn't go there before. So that's what that means so much to me.
Yeah, so where does it hurt? Where is the discomfort? And we can become comfortable in the discomfort. It can become part of our comfort zone. So we go through life. I spent many years always uncomfortable because I was out of alignment with myself. I wasn't forgiving myself. I wasn't, I was not in compassion for myself or others. And so, of course, not forgiving them to the extent that I thought I had forgiven. And learning the layers. The layers is more. And then when you peel away the layers, you can start with that. Get rid of the resentment because it's toxic towards you. So, if you can work on not being bitter and not being resentful, okay, maybe you haven't completely embraced and accepted and what transpired or didn't transpire, but it's like peeling the layer, and there's like another layer underneath. Then every time it's more liberating, it's freeing. There's more self-love, self-compassion in peeling that layer and offering that forgiveness and having forgiveness be something light. Sometimes I'll tell clients, well, have you ever thought about forgiving that? And it's usually with respect to another person, but sometimes to themselves. And I say, you really need to forgive yourself. And they're like, oh, like it's this heavy thing, the idea of forgiveness, and the more that we immerse ourselves in forgiveness, we realize how it lightens us to forgive.
Yeah, a question just came up, but I might have to save it. But I will say that we can be attached to the resentment, like what you said, comfortable with our discomfort. But there can be this: I'm attached to that, and who will I be if I forgive? And there's so many things around for this. My goodness, I guess. But heavy is a very good word, and I think it's like more we think we have to. Like you always use the thing about dragging something around with you. It's like we're dragging it around, but we're not ready to let it go yet until we go through these layers. And I would love, I think right now would be just so perfect to hear your beautiful pre-channeled message. And because, there's now that I really am seeing all these layers, it's not just, you did something wrong to me. I know to be a good person, I got to forgive you and I'll do it. It's much, much more. And so I think that your pre-channel message will guide us beautifully into this.
Oh, yes. I mean, and so in this pre-channel message, as you call it, so I sat on Saturday and sat in the stillness and spoke to the divine and said, where do you want to start this conversation about forgiving the unforgivable? And they gave me a process to go through with forgiveness, or more like layers. They sort of defined some of the layers for me, and that was very helpful. And I could see, where am I in this and that, and so and it's very empowering. So I'm going to read it, and it has a lot of meat there, but there's always a replay. So you can listen again. And it's really beautiful. So here we go. Today we offer you a brief guide to the power of forgiveness. Forgiveness is a process. It is possible to experience instantaneous forgiveness, like you experience instant light when you flip the switch. But most of the time, forgiveness is a process. Learn to embrace this process. Just as a plant starts from seed, so does forgiveness. The seed of forgiveness lies in willingness. Be willing to forgive, to let go and release both the past and yourself from the past. Willingness is like flipping the light switch. You are either willing or not. Be honest with yourself. Are you willing to forgive that thing, that person, or you? Or are you still wanting to hang on to blame? Be honest. When you recognize that what you are holding on to not only doesn't serve you, but also hurts you, it takes only a moment to become willing. Willingness is a change of heart and mind, the understanding that it benefits you to forgive, to release the past and its hold on you. Then the next step is releasing resentment. In unforgiveness, you foster toxic resentment, which is like poison in your soul, heart, and mind. Release the resentment of how things turned out and why you think they happened. This is where you choose to see with different eyes. Replace judgment with compassion, and you can free yourself of resentment's toxic effects on you. This is a process of letting go and releasing. It starts with a change of mind and heart, a decision to no longer live in resentment, to no longer let resentment cloud your thoughts and poison your heart. To make the shift, start by asking yourself different questions, ones that evoke compassion and acceptance rather than judgment and blame. Some helpful questions are, if I had compassion for this person or myself, how would I see this differently? Put on the lens of compassion for a moment. In compassion, there is no one to blame. Also, ask yourself, how would it serve me to stop blaming this person or myself? Be willing to look at yourself, your life and your circumstances, your past and the people in your past and present through a different lens. The lenses of compassion and acceptance free you from blame and guilt. Be willing to look more closely at the guilt you hold. How does it keep you stuck? How does it keep you hurting yourself? You blame yourself for not doing the right thing, for not doing enough, for not being enough. And yet you are more than enough in our eyes. Yet you are also imperfectly human. Perfection is the nature of being human. Perfectly human, and forgiveness is one of the most perfectly human experiences. But guilt blocks you from forgiveness. Release yourself from the prison of guilt. Start by looking at things and looking at you through the lenses of compassion and acceptance and even perfection. You are perfectly human. Guilt is evidence that you care. Learn to care enough to free yourself from guilt. Look at yourself as someone who cares deeply and feel compassion for yourself. You would not feel guilty if you didn't care. Care enough to free yourself from guilt. Accept the choices you made and didn't make, and live more in the present. Birth a new you through changing the story you tell yourself. Speak of your perfect humanness. Embrace yourself in a new story, one that acknowledges that you care deeply and are imperfect, but learning and growing. When you release the guilt and blame, you allow yourself to live in the present as the you who has grown, the you who has learned, and the you who has forgiven. This new story is a story of a you who has freed yourself from the past, embraces yourself, and lives more in the present every day. Every day, forgiveness is a practice. We could speak volumes on everything we have shared here. This is a 30,000 feet view of how you can free yourself through the power of forgiveness. And we are always here as your guide and teacher. In great love, namaste.
Yes. There's a lot. There is a lot in there. It's beautiful, and that's the process for sure. And I just, if I may, that there was a quote that came to me in hearing that, and I'm so excited to share that. I'm just going to find it because I wrote it earlier. Here we go. I love that. Soak the seed of forgiveness in willingness to release you from the prison of your past and what holds you onto there. It was when you said about soaking the seed and releasing from a prison of past, because Noemi, everything that involves forgiveness, it's in the past. It's not. We're recreating this prison bar over and over and over again.
Yes, it ties you to the past. It's so much less energy for the present, and then what about creating a future that you really love? And it's that. It just takes so much energy from the present moment and recreates the painful experience. And maybe you're not thinking about it, but you're leaking energy and you're dragging that ball and chain with you. And you could be so much more alive. All of us, I can be so much more alive in the present moment through releasing more, stepping out of the blame and the guilt and changing that story and freeing ourselves from that prison cell. And I remember years ago, I drew a card, one card, and I said, okay, from one of the decks I have, I said, please, I need something. Give me one card. And it was I don't remember what it was, but it was a card that said, you are the prisoner and you are the prison and you are the prison guard. It is all you that is keeping you stuck. Release yourself. It is all you. You have the power to release yourself. You are the one that's imprisoned yourself, and you're the jailer and the jailed. So release yourself. And I thought, wow, how true.
Lots. You're God and everything. Well, we are, and that's, you've got the key. I love that. And oh my gosh, that's even when somebody else, we've said we're sorry to someone else, and they are holding that forgiveness from us. They're really not, because we actually don't need forgiveness from someone else. We do need it from ourselves, though.
Yeah, we need to forgive ourselves, and we do also need to forgive others if we're hanging on to that resentment, if we're hanging on to the hurt. But yes, we don't have to wait for anybody to forgive us in order to forgive ourselves or to forgive them. And the one person or being that we don't need forgiveness from is the divine, because God is love. Source is never judging us, even though we've been told the complete opposite. So forgiveness is for us humans. Even though I remember this, my father used to quote this: to err is human, to forgive is divine. But it's divinely human to forgive, because divine doesn't need to forgive us.
That's right. Yes. So. Isn't that fun? Divine gets to just swirl around, doesn't have to do any forgiveness. It's not on their to-do list. I love that.
Swirl around. They're laughing at that one. Just hanging out,
Just hanging out. We don't have to do forgiveness. Well, what we'll do, we'll let the commercials swirl around, and then when we come back, I have some fun questions that were coming through right there for me, and I think a lot of people are going to find some power in the power of forgiveness when we return to Access to Angels and Grace with Noemi Grace and Lisa Berry.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
My loves, you know you're here as a soul-led leader to transform this world through the sharing of your passions and gifts. You are here to be in your warrior of light and align your business with your highest self. I'm Rosalind Fung of the show Activate Your Soulgasmic Business. Let's elevate your business to the next expansive level. I invite you to flow into a business soul alignment discovery call with me at rosalindfung.com. That's ROSALYN, fun as in have some fun, FUNG, and let's see how I can best hold space for you to align your highest self, magnetize your dream clients, and monetize on your soul mission. I can't wait to connect.
COVID-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
Do you feel like your emotions are all over the place? That's normal during this abnormal time. There are a number of ways to cope. Maintain a healthy routine, get enough sleep, eat nutritious food, and exercise at least 30 minutes each day. Schedule some time to talk with a friend or family member. And remember, you can always take a few deep breaths to feel more centered.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Well, welcome back. Hello again, Noemi. Are you ready to channel?
Of course. Divine is always ready, so I guess that makes me ready.
That's right. Yes. Well, as we're speaking about this and sharing, like just all the different angles, like the layers and processes, a word that you said, because we were talking about toxicity and poison, and then you said the word bitter, and I went, oh, because I would imagine that toxicity and poison would be bitter, and we think of when we talk about someone who is kind of, unfortunately, we feel like they've wasted their life, now they're old and bitter. And that comes up, that image comes up. And I wanted to just ask you about, that bitter is that, why do we seem to hang on so much to something, knowing that like it's bitter, it doesn't taste good, it leaves a bad taste in our mouth, we're uncomfortable. How is it just that we just don't know how?
Well, whatever we're used to, our brains are wired to recreate the status quo. So whatever we're used to, we gravitate towards in a strange way. I mean, it's survival. It's so that's why people that are addicted to drugs, their brains are wired to recreate that. So it creates cravings. It makes them uncomfortable if they don't have the drug, and so or whatever they're addicted to. So it partially, I think, is biochemistry and psychology. We do what we're used to, unless it's sort of like living by default, right, Abraham? So living by default, you do what you're used to. If default is bitter, then that's what you get. And so without awareness, there was a time in my life I was pretty unhappy, and I didn't know how to free myself. It was a long time ago, but it was I really had no idea how to be any different.
Right. Yes. And that actually leads into the question that kind of came through for me about, we're recreating that. And sometimes what we often are saying is that I cannot forgive, because if I were to forgive, I will let that bad thing happen again. I'll recreate it. So we feel like the question coming through is, what if our fear is that forgiveness will all of a sudden take our protection away, and that we will recreate or attract or let that person or that event happen again to us and put us right back into that painful, hurtful situation?
Well, that's a really great way of looking at that. But does forgiveness take our protection away? All of that protection, the armor that we put on to protect. And I never even would have considered that question. So does forgiveness take our protection away? Then you're talking about attracting and cause us to attract.
Recreate or attract or allow the original.
Allow, yes.
Allow the original hurtful situation to show up again in our lives.
So I'm guessing the answer is no, but I'm going to channel. I'm sure they have a lot more to say than that. But then I think the second half of this question is then, what benefit is there? Sort of like, okay, if we're fearful that forgiveness is going to take away our protection, it's going to cause us to re-experience pain, then the flip side of that being something like, I can't even think of the words, but basically how does forgiveness benefit us and free us, and in a way, can it protect us? Is there any protection in forgiveness?
Yes, yeah.
I like that, actually, because I've never considered that. Okay. And whatever goodness they want to share. So, this is a great question. I mean, it's so many layers to this question. You're so good with questions. And in my book, An Intimate Dialogue with God, The Miraculous Power of Unconditional Self-Love, and in, the work that we do, and in the reading today, in the pre-channeled message, they talk a lot about changing the questions we ask ourselves. And you are so good with questions. So I bet you ask yourself some really good questions.
Well, thank you.
Supportive questions.
Well, I like when you can share the answer from source. That helps too.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to take a moment, grab a little water, and then I'm going to get silent and invite source to share.
Okay.
Hello, Divine. So glad that you're here with us with your answers that help us so much. And the protective aspect, the fear of being unprotected and being inviting, allowing re-injury. And is there protective benefit to forgiveness? Love to hear what you have to say. And we have so much to say. This is one of our favorite subjects because so many of you humans have misunderstood the power of forgiveness and the purpose of forgiveness. And you think you need to seek forgiveness from us, which you do not, because we do not judge. Without judgment, there is no need for forgiveness. And so forgiveness is a protective element, and we'll get back to that in a moment. But first, we want to tell you how much unforgiveness does not protect you. It keeps you in toxicity of the resentment. It keeps you dragging that past, and it even keeps you hurting yourself because you are reliving the past. Whether consciously or subconsciously, unconsciously, you are reliving the past to a certain degree in the unforgiveness. And so you're dragging that past. And that past has toxic pain. That past has poison. That past is for you such a painful experience. Why would you want to keep dragging it forward? But when you hang on to it, to unforgive is to hang on to that pain, is to hang on to the past, is to hang on to the poison, the hurt, the wounds of the past. And all of that does not create protection. When you're hanging on to poison and pain, you are not protecting yourself. The best protection is light. The best protection is love. There are so many practices to put yourself in divine love and divine light, to fill yourself with love and light and to protect yourself in this light. Our light is pure light. It is power and protection. And so to take the past, the poison, the pain, and refuse to release it for fear that you will not be protected is causing you to hurt yourself over and over again. And where's the protection from that hurt? Where's the protection from the re-injury of what you have not forgiven, that you are dragging forward? There is no protection there. True protection is when you line up with the truth of who you are, and you line up with your deep connection with us. We are the most powerful protective force in the universe. We will protect you. Ask for our help. Even our love is protective. Our light, our grace, so much that we give you is protective. And you must trust us to receive that. We give it, but you don't recognize it and don't embrace it if you don't trust. And so there is really no protection. There is no benefit to keeping yourself dragging that past. But there is perceived benefit. There is the perception that you're stronger by not releasing it, by not forgiving it. There's a perception that you are more aware of what is out there that can hurt you. There is a perception of false power in keeping all of that wounding with you. And it doesn't. All of that is false. It is illusion. There is no protection there, and there's no joy there. It robs you of your life force, your joy, your purpose in life is not to drag all that and to think you are protecting. The more that you let go of all that, the more that you are free of all that. You become lighter, you become freer, you become fuller, you could become more fully you. And in that there is joy. And so we want to let you all know that there's no freedom there. And there's no protection there, but there's no freedom there. There's no freedom in dragging that and keeping everything walled off and refusing to forgive, because forgiveness is telling you, I love myself enough to not keep repoisoning myself, to not keep re-hurting myself, to free myself from whatever I did or they did or we didn't do or whatever it is. It doesn't It doesn't have a place in the here and now. It doesn't have a place in your heart. It doesn't have a place in your freedom. And yet, by habit, you habitually carry it forward. You habitually drag it forward with you, not even after a while recognizing the heaviness of the weight of this. It is as if you were putting on a heavy weight and carrying that with you every day. And after a while, you don't even realize that you're weighed down. And you're weighed down and you're burdened and you need to be unfeathered, but you are there, tied to it. And so we say that your freedom, your protection lies in being free of this, because your protection lies in fully aligning with yourself and fully aligning with your connection with us. And there's full protection there. And then when you ask for our protection and you ask angels and spirit guides and whatever spiritual beings you work with for protection, there's even more protection there than already is in the truth of who you are. The truth of who you are is so powerful. What has hurt you is not as powerful as who you are. And yet you cannot get there. You cannot get to that truth which is buried deep when you are carrying all of the stuff at the surface. And you are carrying all of the stuff in the middle layers. And way deep down is that truth that is powerful, that is light, that is love, that is free, that is uplifted. Oh, that truth is so beautiful and so freeing. And so we say to you that all freedom lies in letting go and releasing. The more you release, the lighter you get. You become buoyant. It is as if you can rise physically even, but you will rise up emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and you will free yourself. And so be willing to trust that the freedom and the protection come within, and they come from within, and they come from your connection with us and with all the spiritual beings. And you all have spiritual beings around you. You may not have any awareness of them. It is time to develop a different awareness. So much awareness of pain, so much awareness of what the past has caused you, and how the past did not fulfill you and didn't serve you, and all of this. Serve yourself in the present moment. Serve yourself by freeing yourself, by enlightening yourself, by opening up to receive more and more and more light. And the more light you become, the more protected you are. The higher your frequency, the more light, the more love that you are carrying. That is the greatest protection. That is the greatest protection. We want you to get this because it will free you. We love you so much. You cannot even fathom. And we love you more each and every day. In this transmission for this moment, we are complete. Namaste. Whew.
Lots of, it's almost like you're the, this is not the way it's coming across at all. It's like, that was a really good sales pitch for forgiveness, because it's like, oh my God, look at all the benefits.
The sales pitch. Oh gosh.
Well, we did go in with the benefits, the purpose of forgiveness and the benefits. And I heard something very specific right in the beginning was the purpose of forgiveness and that they, there's no need to forgive from source and because there's no judgment. And I heard exchange judgment for discernment. And when you said alignment with self, that's when we're able to discern. When we're aligned, the alignment with ourselves, we are able to discern, and we don't discern, and we don't have to judge. And then if we don't judge, there's no need for forgiveness then. Like, it doesn't happen in the first place. So is that kind of their exchange judgment for discernment?
That is really powerful. Because, I think there's, in Old English, the judgment and discernment might have been used even interchangeably, but the understanding is when you can discern, oh, this is light, this is not so light, this is pretty dark, this is, this is in alignment with the truth of who I am, that's definitely not in alignment, and you can discern that, then there's no judgment, there's no need to judge. Okay, this is not in alignment with this. Right. It's not good if it's in alignment and bad if it's not. It's just not alignment. So that discernment of what is in alignment and all of those wounds are not in alignment with the truth of who we are. I think in the reading today, in that pre-channel message, it said something about the truth of who you are is unwounded. Oh, it might have been something I was transcribing. But the truth of who you are inside you is that true essence of you, which is unwounded and not able to be wounded. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool.
Now, that's the best protection, where you're not even able to be wounded. You don't need protection.
Good point.
Yes.
Good point. Yes, I think that was something I was transcribing yesterday, which was so lovely.
Unwoundable. That's the power of forgiveness. And yes, because we went in with that question of like, well, geez, if I get off forgiveness, how do I know I'm protected from making this mistake? Well, guess what? You don't, because I love this. You are unwoundable when you are in alignment with your true self and you have discernment, not judgment. We're rewriting the story. Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. So on that note, because we're going into commercial, that is perfect. There you go.
I just love this.
Let's come back after the commercial to rewriting the story, changing the story, telling a different story. Ooh, and that's where extreme discernment is going to be so powerful. Oh, how exciting, Noemi. Thank you. I'm so happy to come back.
Oh, me too.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Consistently attract soulmate clients, begin showing up on brand, monetizing on your calling. Welcome all spiritual coaches, leaders, healers, light workers, and practitioners to a show that turns you on in your business and amplifies your magnetism. I'm host, catalyst, and spiritual business coach Rosalind Fung, and I'm here to journey with you into the juicy and help you discover where the real gaps are. Ignite your mindset and soul with strategies and systems as each episode takes you to the sweet spot that activates your soulgasmic business by tuning in on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain. Join me for your light language activation and let's magnetize and monetize.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
All right, we're jumping in, Noemi, because I have two questions that came through really strongly right there on that.
Two questions. Wow,
Yes.
wow.
Okay, well, the first one's going to be really, so we're talking about, of course we're going to tell a different story. We have to, we must, and the story changes, but here's a fun question that just popped right in there. Okay, I'm going to give a scenario here. So we have two people, could be any relationship, mother, daughter, friends, co-workers, doesn't matter, two people. A wrong happened to somebody. The other person was sorry, there was forgiveness being given, but how many times have we heard, but let's not talk about this again? And there's an agreement, let's never bring this up again. So the question around that is, if we are to move on in true light, in alignment, are we just not telling the story, or are we to tell a new story? And how is that new story told without hurt feelings come up of re-guilt, re-shame, or how to truly move on? And do we tell a story, or do we just never talk about it again?
Well, if we never talk about it again, then we're avoiding it. Then it still has some kind of hold over us. Like, oh, if somebody starts the conversation, nope, can't talk about that.
We'll be put in bad light. Somebody will be put in bad light.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there are certain things, say within families and so forth, that you can't, are not subjects that one can talk about. And so, but if you can accept that and if it comes up, you gracefully switch the subject. But when we can't talk about it, if we can't go there, it probably still has a little hold on us, or a lot of hold on us. And, forgiveness being that process, and you can only forgive to the level, to the point that you're aware of, right? If you're completely unaware of some wounding, you might not forgive. And then as you do work, you discover more wounding as part of the process. And it's just like, oh, I didn't know I was wounded there. And, so like sometimes something will trigger you, and it can trigger you, and you have a reaction, whether internal, external. And it's just like, there's a wound there somewhere. Interesting. It's something we're not necessarily always in awareness of.
Yes. Okay. That's a great point to re-highlight there, is that we are only going to be able to be at that forgiveness level to which we are aware of, where the pain, the trigger, where it is. So it's one thing about even to forgive, but it's another thing to even know where we need to place attention on and do that work to forgive. And so maybe in that, you might have just answered that question. That was like, if we are still innocent, or, okay, so this is the other thing is, so I can talk about this because there is forgiveness, but I've been I don't even say it nicely because there's no judgment on my part, but business partners, it didn't go so well financially, and I can talk about it, but I wouldn't want to hurt their feelings because maybe they're not over it. So should we be worried about where others are in their forgiveness journey?
I think discernment does fit into that, huh? Yeah. Right. So if we completely forgive, then do we say, "Oh, I've forgiven you for the way our business crashed and burned, and I forgive my part, and I forgave your part"? And if the other person is still devastated by it, without discernment, that can come across and if we let the ego make the decision, the ego might be almost bragging about the forgiveness. Oh, I've forgiven both of us. I've forgiven everyone involved. And then the other person is still in pain, and you've just like scratched the wound for them, Yes. And so that discernment about where people are at, and because we've forgiven, maybe we forgave ourselves, we forgave them, but they haven't yet forgiven as deeply, and it's okay. That's their process. That's their journey.
Yes, and I'd like to add on that one, if you're going to go in with source on this one. And I'll slide the story in, because it wasn't me just being flippant, but when I was little, my mother and I had this issue between us because I would do something, but I was a little child, and I would say sorry. I was truly sorry. She wanted to hold a grudge. And so I would just say, well, when you're ready to forgive me, you let me know. So it was a reverse role. It wasn't like, when you're sorry, you let me know. I was truly sorry. And I'd say, I truly am sorry, and I forgive myself, but you are not, and I can't help you on this one. So and here's the little child, I'm sure that didn't go well. But it really was. She was not quite ready to forgive yet. It was too fast. So,
but what wisdom that you had as a child to be able to say that, when you're ready to forgive me, let me know. I'm sorry. I'm apologizing. That's beautiful. The wisdom of a child, that's just lovely.
The pain of separation was aching, and I thought, well, geez, come on now. Like, we're love. Let's love. So
separation, and that unforgiveness creates separation.
Yes.
Even if you have some words between people you love that aren't harsh, but you could tell you're just not aligning, you're a little off with each other, that creates a sense of separation. And so, that forgiveness repairs that separation. It brings you back to that connection
So a couple of questions in there, I guess. Yeah.
I know. So pick your best question and we'll go for it.
Ooh. Okay. So it really is about, I guess you're right, it is about discernment. How can we best discern I don't want to say respectful because that sounds ego-y. How can we discern what is in the highest, best situation for the two people involved in I'm sorry, in apologies, in forgiveness, to honor where each one is at their level?
Discern, honor, and I liked that separation to how can we also heal that separation.
Yes.
So all of that happens, and so many things, like the experience I had that started this wound series, where I got so wounded by someone doing something that had absolutely no malintent. She is not aware to this day, because we never had any conversation about it, how wounded I felt by what she did, and it was that we experience and we get wounded, and it's not even always that intention. So, but when we know that we've both been wounded, and how do we apply that discernment? How do we honor each of us and heal that separation? What's the best ways? Okay, this is exciting. Okay. All right, swig of water, and then we're going in. That's what I told my husband. I said, I'm going in.
Go in. The source circle.
Yeah, in the morning I wake up and do some spiritual practice first before I meditate with him, and then I say, I'm going in. All right, so we're going in. So Divine, turn all of that over to you. I'm just so eager to hear what you have to say, and the best ways that we can discern and honor and heal the separation. And we are pleased to be here and have this conversation with you, because discernment is vitally important. And the desire to honor all parties involved is essential if you are not to then re-wound in the forgiveness process. And so sometimes forgiveness can be perceived as a very individual thing, as almost a narcissistic thing. I forgive you. I bestow forgiveness on you. You hurt me. I forgive you. In that kind of a way. And that is not the heart of forgiveness. That is what we call ego level forgiveness. It does something, but it may cause more pain in the process. And so recognizing that the wounding that has occurred to both parties or multiple parties, and not holding that resentment, not holding malintent on anyone's part, not perceiving that. Perceiving, here are people that are human, and they are imperfect, and they are human, and they are perfectly human, and they have wounded each other. And yes, sometimes things are maliciously intended, but we are going to speak now of that which is not maliciously intended, but it also applies to the malicious intention. Because with the malicious intention, you do your part. It may be the safest and protective thing to heal on your side and free your side of the tether, and not have any future conversation with the other person if they set out to hurt you. So there is the protection, going back to the previous question. There is protection in freeing your side of the tether that you are in unforgiveness. You are tethered to each other. Free your side. Do that for yourself. And so that is the forgiveness of the unforgivable, where we started, but we are going to a different place here, because for many of you, there are these small resentments and wounds that just keep getting reactivated and opened and re-experienced. And so to recognize you're all human. You're all doing what you're doing. Some are doing the best they can, some are not. Don't judge that. They're doing what they're doing. Freedom is in forgiveness for you. The freedom of forgiveness is a gift for you. And yet you can extend the gift to the other by untethering your side and letting them decide whether they want to drag the ball and chain all along with themselves. But in this freedom where you are discerning and not wanting to hurt another person, you must come and see them as human, as imperfect, and yet caring. If you care for yourself and you care for them, then you will honor both of you and do forgiveness, experience forgiveness. It's really not a doing, it's more of an experience. Noemi likes to use the word doing. We said experience and she said doing, but anyway, we forgive her. Oh, Divine, you're so funny. Anyway, sometimes they do this and it just makes me laugh. Back in the channel. So, where were we? Oh, yes, forgiving. So, allowing yourself to see the vulnerability in the other person and in yourself, and recognizing that forgiveness is an act for you, is an experience for you. It is freeing you and offering freedom to the other person. So first, the discernment that you do not need to tell people that you have forgiven them and that you have forgiven yourself. And you can, in discernment, you will recognize where they are. If you will see them with eyes of love and compassion, you will see their vulnerability. You will feel that they're in a different place or they're still stuck in the wound. And send them love. Send them love as you free yourself. If they are stuck in the mire, send them love. Send them compassion. With your intention and your thought, you send that to them. And so your discernment is, one, to recognize where they are. When you see them with the eyes of compassion, the eyes of love, the eyes of forgiveness. And so in that discerning, you see where they're at, and you free yourself. And in that freeing of yourself, you shrink the separation between you and them, and you bring yourselves closer. And you free yourself from the tether, and you bring that wounding into a healing process. And the healing process offers healing to the other person without you having to say anything. And so, in the experience of forgiveness, forgive to free yourself and to offer freedom to the other person. But in the discernment, see where they are. You can tell how another person is when you meet them. If you say, how are you doing? And they say, fine. And you can see they're in pain. You can see they're not fine, but they're saying fine because that's what is expected. Send them love. Send compassion. When you forgive, when you experience forgiveness, one great practice with that is to send compassion and love to the other person. And if you are the other person, to send it to yourself. Free yourself and offer forgiveness through the compassion and love that you are sending to the other person, offering them the opportunity to change, to shift, to free. And yet it is so much a gift that you are giving yourself. And in that discernment, always take that moment to see where someone is at when you meet them, when you talk to them. If you pick up the phone and you call them, feel where they are at. Listen to them a little more deeply. Discernment is a deep listening and a deep knowing combined. Allow yourself to develop that. Allow yourself to honor the other person by sending them the compassion and the love. Allow yourself to honor yourself in the same. And allow yourself to free yourself. We have great love for you. We desire nothing more than for you to be free. And freedom is available to every one of you. In great love, we are complete. Namaste.
Oh, I was muted. Hello.
I had a feeling.
Two things I'm going to squeeze in there before our minute is I love that you mentioned, the source mentioned about if we do not offer someone our forgiveness in a narcissistic way. It's not the ego that is giving freedom to somebody else. It is through the compassionate, and it is not a doing. It's an experience. And that was so
I know
big.
that
I love that.
Sometimes they just catch me off. They comment on me and I start laughing. So, not like Esther Hicks, where they talk about Esther and she's in trance, so she doesn't comment. But
right.
So.
But I love that to say. And my question would be, as we close off, is that maybe ask yourself: have you experienced forgiveness? Not done forgiveness, but have you truly experienced forgiveness? And when you do, you shall experience the power that frees you from that prison.
And how can you experience the forgiveness more deeply?
Yes.
How can you,
deeper.
allow yourself that gift of freedom? So lots of good stuff and more to come. Not sure what we will be inspired, what the divine will inspire us with for our next show on April 12th.
Yes, happy April 12th, everybody. We'll see you on Monday at 12 p.m. noon Eastern. And you know what? Just everybody, yes, go experience forgiveness deeper and deeper and go those layers. Thank you so much, Noemi Grace. I love doing this.
Thank you, Lisa. I love doing this. Have a beautiful day, everyone.
Okay, bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.